Today is the 23rd day of February 2015, and we are very pleased to have Shankaran with us. Namaskar.
Namaste.
I know you have many wonderful stories to tell, but let's begin at the beginning. When did you first hear of Mother and Sri Aurobindo?
I would like to explain it in a little detail. You see, right from my childhood, I was drawn to spiritual subjects. I had read Ramana Maharishi first. That was because on Ramana's birth centenary in 1979, I was selected from my school to represent Delhi, and I spent 15 days in Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala, where I think something had happened and I started reading spiritual literature. And after that, I moved on to Ramakrishna. But almost till the age of 30, I had hardly heard of Sri Aurobindo. I was staying in Delhi, and I knew of Sri Aurobindo vaguely as one of the freedom fighters. There was a marriage in Chennai, and I had come with my family for that marriage. And a distant cousin was in Pondicherry. So he suggested to me that, just for 2 days, you come to Pondicherry and just spend a couple of days here. I came over to his house, and then he told me that, I asked him as a tourist would that what are the things that you can see in Pondicherry. He said there's an ashram. It's a Sri Aurobindo ashram, and there's a Ganesh temple. So I said fine. I was just here for a day, and the next day I was leaving.
And what year was this?
This was 1990. 1990. And I went to the Samadhi. As now I see many of the people who go, I see myself in them. Because I didn't know anything. I said it's a holy place. I put my head in the Samadhi, nothing spectacular or miraculous happened. I just sat for 2 minutes and then came out, went to the Ganesh temple and went back to his house. The next day I was to start off for Chennai. I asked him, is there anything else to see? So then what he told me was, you see, there are some foreigners who are building something called a globe. I'm talking about 1990. If you are interested, it's a bit out of the way. I said, still it's fine. I'm quite happy to go there. He said, what you do is that he didn't know anything at all actually, He had also only a very vague idea. So he said, you take the bus going along this route and there's a turning, that was the ECR turning, where you can just get down and you can walk. It's very nearby. So I said, it's fine. I had my bag with me. It was considerably heavy because it had my overnight clothes and a couple of other things. As told by him, I got down at the turning. And then I asked someone. He said, there is a workshop. I think it was Murugan's or Mani's moped workshop. That is actually where Purtus is there now. So he said, you go there, he will tell you the route ahead. And I still remember we didn't have any of these constructions which are there now. It was a kind of a lonely road. And as I was turning into the road, I later on found out he was an Austrian. He was coming in his Lambretta. Lambretta is one of the old scooters. I still remember it so vividly because it was so important. It was a yellowish scooter with a ivory kind of this. It was a two-shaded scooter, a rickety scooter. It was just running along, and he took the turn towards Pondicherry. I started walking, and August sun is a bright, hot sun. It's not pretty cool when you're walking in the sun with a bag. I walked along, and came to Koilapalayam area, and there was this workshop. And I told him, he said, no, you have to walk a little ahead. It's a little further, so you can go ahead. But one thing I still remember is that as I kept walking, I was feeling a kind of an energy. I didn't feel tired. So I kept walking along, and I think I must have reached where Solar Kitchen is there now. At that time it was still, I think, under construction. And this Austrian had gone all the way to Pondicherry, and he had come back, and he was going further, and he saw me. So he said, the guy is probably going to Auroville somewhere, so he just stopped next to me and asked me, where are you going? So I told him that I'm going to see the globe. He had smiled at me and he said, I'll drop you. So it's not very further ahead from the Solar Kitchen, so he just took me along and dropped me in front of the main gate, the big gate which is there. But the very, very interesting thing was, I was told that even at that time they had people at the gate. Matrimandir, it was always so. But when I walked in, it was about 11 o'clock in the afternoon, I just managed to walk in all the way through. Nobody stopped me. So I was there near the amphitheater, and then one of the security guards came out. I think it was Abdul. who's still there now, or maybe he's just retired. And he must have thought, I must have got some special permission. So he actually offered to take some photographs of me with Matrimandir in the background. So that was promptly taken. And when I came back, the guard was there. So he gave me a strange look, but then it was probably his mistake, so he didn't say anything to me. And then there was a small kiosk outside where they were selling the books. And I've been an avid reader right from my childhood. But I chose two books which were the smallest in size, because I had to carry them with me. I was already tired. So I just, I didn't know anything. I just chose the books at random. They are still there with me. One is Elements of Yoga with the Mother's Commentary. It's a VAC publication. It was a very small book. And there's even a smaller book, beautiful green covered, cover with the mother walking down the steps. That was the Supramental Manifestation with the Mother's Commentary. So I took those books, put them into my bag, and then took the bus to Chennai. From Chennai, I went back to Delhi. And after, I think, a week or so, I just decided to go through the books. And just as I was reading the book, I could say that I had a spiritual experience. It was very strong. And I, in fact, took leave from my office the next day, because I just didn't want to go anywhere else. And that was the time when I decided that I have to get more books. Then I found out about Sabda. They were sending the books by mail order. And I think I managed to get the entire works of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and all the works of Nalinikanta Gupta, Madhav Pandit, and any other book by mail. It used to come. The packets used to come. And the net result was that I'd started my own business, an advertising agency, and I'd started it in '86, and I was just on the point of taking off, but I was not happy actually from the inside. I was successful, but not very happy doing what I was doing. '94, I decided to close down my agency. By that time, my parents had shifted to Chennai, so I came to Chennai, and then of course, we shifted further on to Trichy. I would come for the darshans regularly. I would stay at Garden Guest House, and that's the way it actually started.
Then, how did you come into contact with ashram people?
Again, it was a very, very interesting thing. You see, somehow, you said that when did I come to Mother and Sri Aurobindo? I think long before I came to them, the mother was already taking charge of my life. How is it? Because it's the way things have moved in my life, the time factor. When I was in Delhi, I didn't know about that there was a Sri Aurobindo ashram in Delhi. You see, I was someone who was so drawn to ashrams that if I had known there is an ashram, it's like Don Quixote and the windmills. I would have gone full tilt towards the ashram. I knew there was a mother's school, and I thought it was somebody who had called a school after his mother. He didn't want to take a name, so he said, it's mother's school. And I had no idea that it could contain an ashram. So it was always mother's school for me. I used to see the children come out regularly from the school. But once I shifted to the south, then somebody said, you're going to the Pondicherry ashram regularly. And I had to go back to Delhi once in a while for some work. He said, there is actually an ashram in the mother's school. It's Sri Aurobindo ashram, and you can actually stay there. So I wrote a letter because I wanted to stay in the ashram. So I said that I'm coming for a week or so, and I want to place in the guest house. And just to reinforce my candidature, I said I've been reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo for the last 10 years. It was '99, the month of, I think, February or so. And I got back a letter with a small name Tara, which is Tara Didi, Tara Johar. And she said that since you are interested in Mother and Sri Aurobindo, we also have some camps in a place called Nainital. So if you want, I could book you into one of the camps. Subsequently, actually, I attended two. And the first camp was by Anand Reddy. The other was by a person called Partho, who was from the Delhi ashram.
Partho.
Yeah. And where, of course, once I met Anand Bhai, we got along famously. But even at that time, I had no idea what significance that meeting had. I came back, I went back to Trichy. And in November, I wanted to come for the darshan, November '99. This time, I could not get a place in the Garden Guest House. So I said, okay, Then I thought that, why not take a chance at one of the Auroville guest houses. So I already had the Auroville literature. So I said, let me begin with aspiration. You have to start with aspiration. So I gave a call. The phone numbers were given. So I called up aspiration and I was told November is a time when actually Auroville, it's quite full. I said, there is no place. Then I called up the next, I said, new creation. So I think I spoke to Andre. And he told me just one place is there from, about 17th November till 25th of November. So if you want, you have to vacate on the 25th. On that condition I will give you. I said, it's fine, I will go there. So I again came back to Pondicherry. And Pondicherry, he said he will send me a taxi. It was raining cats and dogs. The taxi came and I got into the taxi. And once you enter into Auroville, there was no electricity. It was already about 8 o'clock. And I was feeling pretty lost. I didn't understand where I was because I couldn't see anything. Suddenly this taxi comes there. And there is this man with a white beard with a candle. I remembered that character from Oliver Twist. I think it was Fagin. With a candle, and he just took me into a room. It's all dark. I couldn't even see the bed properly. And he said, you stay here. And he left. So I decided, the first thing in the morning I'm going to do is that whether I get a place in the ashram guest house or not, I'm going to shift to Pondicherry. But the moment I woke up, it was a very different world altogether. It was so beautiful. And it was during that stay, on the third day, I was just going along near Certitude, where there's a clump of eucalyptus trees on the road going towards Solar Kitchen. I stopped my moped. I had already taken a moped on hire. And it was, I think, about sunset time. I just stood there looking at the sunset. And something hit me. I said, I have to join Auroville. I had no idea or plan. So I said the only person I know in this whole ashram area is Anand Reddy. So I called up Anand Bhai. But I didn't want to tell him I wanted to join Auroville. No, before that I had gone to the entry group. And I was told that entry was closed during that time because there was a housing crisis. So all entry was closed. So I called up Anand Bhai and we were met in the ashram beach office. And I told him, I'm thinking of joining one of the three. Either the society or the ashram or Auroville. But I'm very clear that now I want to take a decisive step. He meditated for some time. I said that, Shankaran, maybe you should join Auroville. Later on, I came to know it was because mother sent him to Auroville in the beginning. So that had kind of influenced his thing, and it was the thing which was after my heart. But I said, you see, Anand Bhai, I went to the entry group. There was a person called Sadrishya at that time who was there in the entry group. And they told me the entry is closed. But it's by chance that there is a lady in Auroville who's looking for someone just like you, who's fluent in Tamil and English. And they are a very separate community. I'm sure she will be able to accommodate you. In any case, why don't you meet her? So the next day, I went and we met Bhavna. Verite.
Bhavana.
And she immediately said, why don't you come tomorrow? I said, but they say the entry is closed, so you don't worry about that. Verite, we have a place. And she was working with the Village Action Group. She wanted me to join the Village Action Group. And I said, you see, I haven't informed my family. So I've got to go back to my mother and my brother and tell them that I'm moving out of the house. So I decided and finally decided that in February 2000, I will come to Auroville. I went back, told my mother. They knew right from the beginning because I didn't get married at that time. Even during my time when the marriage proposals were coming, I had put my foot down. That I am going to go for a spiritual life, so no marriage. And they said that fine, ultimately he's not becoming a sannyasi because that's what they were afraid of.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when I actually had packed my bags to join the Ramakrishna Math. So my mom said, fine, you're going there, it's not so far away from Trichy, it's just a 5 hours drive. So I moved into Verite. I stayed in Verite for about 2 years. But again, life took a turn. When I was just about to complete my newcomer period, Anand Bhai had, started Sakar in 2000. I was there in the inauguration, Niruddha had come. So he said that, Shankaran, I need someone like you who has been reading Mother and Share Bindu and can work with the journal. So I don't know how to say it to you, but would you like to come and join Sakar? Again, there was, nothing particularly any kind of a mental decision. I shifted to Sakar, and I was given the charge of a journal called the New Race. And I found right in the editorial page, mother had given her blessings on my birthday. My birthday is the 13th of December 1963, and mother had given the blessings for New Race on 13 December 1966. So just to see that, 13, 12 December and blessings, the mother, I said, this is the mother's decision. So I was doing the editing for again about a couple of years. And along with that, another reason why I had shifted out of Auroville was in Auroville, you are given a particular, I was a kitchen in charge in Verite. And it's difficult for you to be doing something else along with that, for extended period of time. It's not something, because you are committed to the community. Tara Didi had at that time already started giving some responsibility to me, and she takes a decision just in. So she said, that I have got a photograph collection, and it's all in negatives and print, and we are going to scan it digitally, and somebody has to come and stay for 2-3 months here, so that when he sees the photographs, he can also identify the people and the occasion, and he has to correlate with me. Most of the photographs which Loretta is now bringing out, they belong to that period. So I was working in Sakar. I was also staying in Delhi Ashram for 2-3 months at a stretch and doing the scanning. It was a wonderful experience because it was being done in high resolution. So each photograph would take about 10 minutes. And there were about, let's say, for the mother giving the blessings out on a puja day, I have 100 people coming in, and one photograph after the other, and you have it on your computer screen. It's like you're present and watching the mother. Each and every gesture, one person is walking out, the next is coming in, the next is coming in. It was a wonderful experience.
Now I'm a little confused as to the timeline. You were at Verite, then you went to Ananda Reddy.
Verite, I was there between February 2000 till October 2002.
Okay.
October 2002, I went to Sakar.
All right.
But along with that, I was also going to Delhi Ashram and coming back to Sakar. I was staying in Sakar in one of the rooms. We had a couple of small rooms on the second floor, and I used to go back and forth between Delhi Ashram and Sakar. And already I was looking after the camps at Nainital.
Oh.
She had started shifting the responsibility to me. She was the person who was actually looking after the study camps in Nainital. She started shifting the responsibility. So from 2002 onwards, I started working as the coordinator for the camps in Nainital.
So, then what happened?
Then again, you see, it's very interesting. They say that marriages are planned in heaven. I think I can vouchsafe for that, because I had very clearly decided that I'm not going to get married. And I was a coordinator for the study camps. Again, I keep on relating the so-called coincidences. I had been asking mother and brother to come for the camps because I was the coordinator. I wanted my mom to come. Finally, she said, Ananda Reddy, I know, he's taking a camp, so I'll come only for that camp. So my mom and my brother were there, and I was the coordinator. And my wife, Manasi. She also had, maybe you can ask her how it happened to her, but she also had just come for that particular camp. Without planning for it in any way.
That was Ananda Reddy's?
Ananda Reddy's camp in the summer of 2005. The next was Natkarniji's.
Ah.
So we were there for both the camps. And she met my mother and my brother first. They got along famously. And my mother introduced her to me. And then I remember we were going for a walk to that particular bungalow in which Sri Aurobindo had stayed for about 15 days in Nainital with Mrinalini Devi. We were going there for a meditation, and that was the walk when we started talking to each other. And why we got along so well was because both of us were congratulating each other that, it's very good that you decided not to get married. And then she started talking about, there is so much pressure. I said, I put my foot, because it's very easy, comparatively easy in India for a man to decide to, go it alone. But there is so much pressure on a girl to get married from the family. It's very difficult for people. Now it's a little different. But even now, they always want a girl to be married off, one way or the other. And then, of course, the next camp, Natkarniji's camp, I popped the question, but she was not very sure. But then I had to travel all the way to Guwahati from Delhi, about I think 2000 kilometers, to ask for her hand. And that is another story. I think I'll leave it to Mansi to say that story. But yes, then we finally got married we met in the month of May end, and we were married on her birthday on the 21st of August. Here, right here in the ashram.
Now, you had told me that there were many, many things you could tell about how Mother guided you in your life.
Yeah, the guidance.
And I know that people would love to hear these things.
You see, the one thing is like uh, when you reach Sri Aurobindo, you feel the vastness of the philosophy, you're amazed at the vision that he presents to you, the vision for the future. And the most important thing is how he is able to explain in detail that which generally many other spiritual masters don't put so very kind of in detail and in coherence. But with the mother, it's a very, very intimate relationship. So I had always, even now you can see that I stopped carrying wallets. I always carry a photograph of the mother, and I put all my money and my driving license and everything in it. The reason was, you see, I had right in the beginning, maybe I think it was in 96 or 97, a couple of experiences where I was really stuck in a very difficult situation. And I'd just taken out the photo of the mother and I told her simply that, this is the case. And the way the answer came, the way the difficulty was removed, it was, I could not doubt that she is present and she answers. She answers. And of course, there are a few humorous instances also where again, so she makes it so very clear that, she is there and she is listening to you. Do you want me to tell you one of those instances?
As many as you can,
Because
or will.
I will do it. It's a sacrifice I'm making because it is an instance where it clearly brings out me. I'm the fool in the whole story. See, you know that near the darshan, on many occasions you find that sweets are distributed in the ashram dining room. And I have a sweet tooth. So this was, I think, 2006 or 2007. And I was just walking into the dining room. And right in the beginning, you can see the other people's plates. So there was this big raskadam.
Oh.
It's double the size of a normal rasgulla, and floating in that sweet water. And I could just see it as I was walking into the line into the dining room. And I was very happy, Today we are having sweets. But also when I am in the line, I am looking at the mother and sometime I talk to her, the photographs are there. I wanted to play the big sadhak. So I told the mother, you see, it's fine, there is a sweet. But it doesn't matter to me, it's not so important. Sadhana is the most important thing. And every step I am walking, I'm really looking forward to, getting my hands on the sweet and having it. The line moved slowly. The sweet was at the last counter. After everything was served, there was a place where you have this big kind of a vessel and the sweet is served from that. And each step I was moving towards that, the expectation, the joy was rising. The person before me hands out his plate, they give him this sweet. I take my plate there. It's finished. So the person before me gets it, and I was disappointed. I walked up, trudged up the stairs, sat on the table, and I told the mother I will never do it again. I'll never try to play smart. I'll always tell you, yes, I should have told you that I am happy that there's a sweet and you're giving me a sweet, and fine, but there is the next thing. And I was actually very, very sad that the sweet didn't come and I missed the sweet. And I also knew that why it happened. The next day, because darshan time, many people are there who want to offer sweets in the dining room. The same sweet was repeated. I was walking, but this time I was very, very humble. I was very grateful, and I thanked the mother that, that okay, you have now given your child one more sweet. I went up, and this time I got my sweet. I walk out, and Narayan from the archives is a friend, and all the family, the sisters, they are like my sisters. So Vasudha is there. She says, Shankaran, come here. So I go to her. She says, Narayan could not come for the lunch in time, but he told me to keep a sweet for him. But now he rings me up and tells me that he can't come at all. I know you have sweet tooth, why don't you have it? So now the second one comes into my bowl. And then there is another lady rushing in, her elder sister. Jayadi, she comes and says, this sweet is too much for me. Shankaran, you take it. So I had 3, but it was an experience which really was something which, brought the truth home to me. You always say the mother is there with you. But this made me understand that how much she is there and how much she is actually listening to everything that is going on within you. And because this is something which she has confirmed in her, answers to Shyam Sundar. I think it's called En route, mother's correspondence with Shyam Sundar. So once Shyam Sundar had written many things, where he had written, I pray to you, I meditate, I concentrate. She had answered, good, good, good. And then he wrote to her, I talk to you. And she's put, very good. Because when you talk to someone, the person has to be present here. When you pray, it could be to someone who's up there. But when you're talking to someone, she is here. And that is something which I think most of my sadhana is just talking to the mother.
Very beautiful. What work are you doing now?
At present, both myself and Mansi are working in the Ashram Lake Estate, Matrudhyanam, where we grow the flowers for the Samadhi and the ashram. I'm looking after the accounts, the salary accounts and the other things. And Mansi is looking after the ashram, the nursery, plant nursery there.
How do you remember some of the older sadhaks? Did you meet any of them?
See, again, this was something where, even in the case of the ring that I'm wearing,
yes,
this was something which I decided that, if something is to come to me, it will come. So this came to me as part of my marriage. And because Chote Narayanji was also there, he used to come to Nainital.
Oh.
So he also said, I never bought and wore the mother's ring. I just didn't feel like doing it. So I had taken that thing and I told the mother, I offered it to the mother that, if you are to give me a ring, you will give me a ring. And this ring came to me. So I did meet Nirodha on occasions, but somehow I didn't feel like, I had to go and take time from them and talk to them in the beginning. And also I had this kind of feeling that anytime I had a doubt or a question, I would ask the mother, whether it was on the Life Divine or the synthesis, and the answer would come after some time, through a writing, through a book, or even directly.
Have you entered Savitri?
Yes, but it is an ocean. So I have entered it, but like one of the ancient Tamil saints here, Avayar, she has said, Katradu kaimannalavu, kalladadu kadalalavu. So what I have learnt is a handful of sand, and what I have still to learn is the ocean.
Oh, beautiful.
I think it applies to Savitri.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, absolutely. Can you share any other stories with us that you can recall? What about camps at Nainital?
See, they are a very beautiful experience. Again, this was something which I think that I feel that the role I am playing in the camps there is something that the mother wants me to do. One is I feel perfectly at home there. And also, from the sadhana viewpoint, also it is psychologically, it's very, very helpful. The reason is that I'm not the speaker in the camps generally. You have people like Anand Reddy and Alok Pandey and Dr. Natkarni and Chote Narayanji and other speakers from other parts of India, like from Orissa, from Gujarat. So they would come for a week, and there are 50 resident campers, and we stay together for a week there. And the subject is always from Sri Aurobindo and the mother on the yoga, on the integral yoga. And the kind of friendship and the bonding that we develop, that most of my friends I have made are from Nainital. Because even here in the ashram, generally you are quite busy going to your department and coming back. You don't have so much time to interact with each other. But when you live in a place together for a week, and you're talking and you are living in the atmosphere of Savitri or the synthesis or the life divine, it creates a very special atmosphere. And the work that I do there is actually that I take the morning yoga sessions. I do the room allotments. And that is something which is, as I said, psychologically very, very helpful, because people who have been coming know of the rooms. The rooms are in different shapes and sizes. So some are better and some are not so good. And then there always will be somebody who will be telling you, that this room is not right and he got that room and I got this room. And when you have to work with that, I think you learn a lot about how to establish harmony. And also I find one thing is that there is nothing which helps like humor. Because you crack a joke and then of course the way I see within a couple of days all these people, how they become such close friends. And many people keep coming year after year after year. It's a beautiful location, it's on top of one of the hills which is above the town. It's called Varnivas. And it's at an altitude of 7,400 feet.
Oh.
And totally quiet. In the town you have so much busy noise and so much crowd. And here it's a very serene, very quiet, very beautiful experience. So it's one of, I think, Mother's blessings that every year, 2 months a year I am there in Nainital. And I get to meet so many devotees from so many parts of India. And like I am talking to you now, when I hear their stories, so I now have understood that you don't have to kind of go and try to bring people into the fold. She's doing it.
Yes, of course.
And they come. They're amazing. So I can give you one story. This gentleman was a businessman, engineer from Chandigarh. Again, somebody who had never heard of Sri Aurobindo. And he was on a business trip. He had traveled from Chandigarh to Delhi and he was taking the train from Delhi to Bombay. And in the Delhi station, he buys from the bookstall a NCRT publication on Sri Aurobindo. He starts reading it. And something again happens to him. And he inquires and he finds out there is a Sri Aurobindo ashram in Delhi. He cancels his trip to Bombay and goes to the ashram. Because we have heard Amal Kiran's story how he went and bought a pair of shoes. And there was this old newspaper wrapped around it and he opens it and finds Sri Aurobindo there. And then he says they became my pilgrim shoes. And I wore them and he came all the way to Pondicherry. So this is something which I find it's just wherever, the opening is there. So again, the line from Sri Aurobindo where he says, if you have chosen the infinite has already chosen you. So I always believe that the mother is looking after these things and we have just to be carried by her and she carries you.
What experiences at the lake? Mathurudhyanam.
It's a wonderful place. And it is, I think, an extended body of the ashram. It's not that there's a 10 kilometer separation from the ashram to that place. And the mother's presence is so strongly felt there. In all the places that we go. I work in Mathurudhyanam, then we have the mainland. And especially with the flowers, because the flowers are there.
Yes.
And when the flowers are present, that special sweetness is there in her presence. And you feel it, experience it so much when you are there in the garden.
Do you do any exercise?
See, I generally, during my working days in Delhi, was notoriously lazy. But I learned my yoga from Tara Didi in Nainital. The first time I actually learned yoga was from her. And then it's yogasanas for beginners, so they're basic asanas. So I've been giving those asanas regularly. And of course, I've been a little lax over the last 7 or 8 months. But before that, and even now, I've again started, I cycle to the lake at least 3 times a week. That's a good 10 plus 10, 20 kilometers a day. And again, since Nainital is coming, I was just started off on my yoga routine. It was for some reasons, it had just kind of. Uh,
And what months are you in Nainital and what's the weather like?
Nainital, in the summers, I'm there for 2 months, May and June. May and June, the weather is beautiful because the plains are, it's quite hot. But Nainital, it's a hill station. And the weather is 17 degrees, 16 degrees. It's a wonderful weather.
Flowers and fruit?
Yes, because the person who's in charge of Vannivas, he is himself an avid gardener, Nalin Dholakia. So he personally takes care of the flowers. They're full of flowers all around. Fruits, of course, we don't have in Nainital, but we have another ashram center in a place called Ramgarh, where we have the fruit orchards, where the fruits are grown. And just beyond that, there is a place called Mountain Paradise, where actually the fruits used to be grown and they used to come for the mother.
That was where Gerard lived for 10 years.
Correct.
Yeah. Shankaran, so many people are seeking these days. We have the internet, and they can find Mother and Sri Aurobindo on the internet, but many don't know where to look or how to look, and they take different paths. What would you say to the youth today who are seeking, and some of them very truly seeking?
See, the thing is, this is something which I think is there in the Indian tradition. And there I can actually quote somebody called Yogi Krishna Prem. You know, he was a friend of Dilip Kumar Roy. He was someone who took to the traditional Vaishnava sannyas, and he set up a Vaishnava ashram. He was his original name was, I think, Ronald Nixon.
Ronald Nixon,
Ronald
that's
Nixon.
correct, yes.
And he was a professor of philosophy in the Lucknow University, a Westerner, a Britisher. And he has also corresponded with Sri Aurobindo, and those letters are wonderful letters where Sri Aurobindo has talked about his sadhana. So he was asked a very interesting question. He said, people who knew him, his friends, he said, you have been someone who's been deeply into philosophy, and now you are into the spiritual path. So it's fine. We understand that you are seeking a spiritual truth, and it's a vast and a wide truth. But what we cannot understand is that fine, these people who are not so knowledgeable as you are, they do these, aspects of worship like taking the small little idol of Krishna, putting it into a small swing, making it swing, giving it a bath, pouring milk on it, wiping it, and offering sweets to it. So don't you think that these are things that you need not do, because after all you have a spiritual quest? So his answer is very interesting. You see, he said that I have chosen a path. For thousands of years before me, the masters, the people who have walked before me, have done these very things. And doing these things, they have realized Krishna. Who am I to come now and question whether these things are essential or not? I will do what my teachers have taught me. So I think once Mother always said, take all the time before you walk into the path of yoga. And also it's the same thing I think applies to the guru. Take all the time before you choose someone as a guru. But the moment you have chosen the guru, then you should have implicit faith in the Guru and what the Guru says. And once you follow what the Guru says, because the moment you have accepted someone as a Guru, you have also accepted that he is someone who can take you to the divine. So then the most intelligent thing to do is actually obey as much as you can with all sincerity. And if you especially where you have a living presence of the Guru, because this is something which I and many of the present generation can say that we have never met Sri Aurobindo or the mother physically. We never had an opportunity. I didn't even come as a child, so I didn't even have that balcony darshan of the mother. But the mother is a constant living guide, companion. Even if I have a joke, I share it with her. Because she's someone with whom I can laugh freely and there will be no complications, because you never know with another human being. Even if you share a joke and if he even is vaguely at the butt of it, then you never know how he will take it. So this is something which I have found, that we have a good joke, which I may not be able to say to other people. I always tell the mother and we have a good laugh. So I make it a point never to question what Sri Aurobindo or the mother say. Of course, before that there is always a wide reading which gives you an idea, a background. But also what I have understood is that what we are seeking now, it is not something which is within the scope of the mind. Mind has its role, the intellect has its role. But at some point of time, the mind and intellect have to abdicate in surrender and in sincerity.
If you wish, but only if you wish, have you had any experiences, inner experiences with Sri Aurobindo?
Few. Like, again, you see, that you are so thankful that Sri Aurobindo has written so many letters. Because in one way of looking at it, you could say that this was not any kind of, because I have never had visions. Mm-hmm. Many people have had visions. But the experiences have been unmistakable. The first one was when I took those two books, The Elements of Yoga and the Supramental Manifestation. I was just reading those books. I was, remember, I stretched myself out in a sofa and I had a pillow on the other side and I was reading these books like that. And suddenly I felt a joy flowing through me. So right in the beginning, when I had no idea of who Sri Aurobindo was and I had no idea of what the supramental meant, I kept reading and my body was feeling delight. It was so strong. Right, of course, tears flowing all the way through from my eyes, tears started flowing, sweet tears. I put the book down. I just sat quiet and I still remember that was part of that experience. Suddenly, I could always hear some traffic noise, going on in the streets. The one thing which I remember is suddenly I could hear nothing but the tweeting of birds. Like suddenly all the traffic had disappeared, no other noise. And you can't define that time. I don't know how long it lasted, because it was not something which I could say it lasted this long or that long. I could just hear birds tweeting and no other sound. And then, of course, this joy that was flowing through me, it kept on and on and on. That was the time when I decided that next day. Of course, it started abating after some time. But I could still feel it the next day also. It had abated quite a bit. But I didn't go to my office on that day. And then again, you see how beautifully it comes. Then I read a letter of Niruddha, where he had shared a similar experience. He had gone to the mother. And in the ashram circles, generally, jokingly, is called the man of sorrows. Because he had so many sorrows which he wrote to Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
So mother had asked him, very interesting question she had asked him. She asked him, Nirodh, how is your aspiration formulating? He was nonplussed because he said aspiration is when formulating. So he said, Ma, I don't understand. She said, what is it that you want right now? So he said, I want Ananda, I want delight. The mother smiled at him. A short interview with the mother, and then he had walked out. He was walking on the beach, and there was this massive descent of delight. He has shared this experience. And he also said something which now I am thankful I didn't do. So he said that I went and I sat down on the rock next to the beach. This delight was descending so powerfully. And I said, he decided that he has to do something about it. So he decided to write poetry. And the moment he started wanting to write poetry, the thing went away. And in my own way, the way I understand it is that he actually got his mind working. Because Kapali Shastri had said that this thing, he was someone who had a vision. He said that I used to see when mother used to, people used to come to the mother, he had this subtle vision. He said that I could see the mother was removing all the thoughts from them. She said mother used to do it. And this is something which corresponds to many experiences of the sadhaks who have had individual interviews with the mother, that they have said that we remember till the moment we walked into her room. But suddenly when we were in her presence, that whole thing got washed out. Then we remembered we walked out.
This was the case with Raman Maharshi also. Temi Ben, who lived in the ashram for many years, told me the story that when she was 17, her father took her to see Raman Maharshi. He said, formulate all your questions. He will answer anything you ask. And she went in there. They went out. Father said, you didn't ask any questions. She said, there was nothing to ask.
Vivekananda, he was asked by Ramakrishna to go into and ask for some money from the mother. He walked in and he couldn't ask and he came back. And this is the wonderful thing, like mother says, everything is in Savitri. There are beautiful lines in Savitri just to explain this very point. This light comes not by struggle or by thought.
Yes.
In the mind's silence, the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word.
Yes.
A vast surrender was his only strength.
I would be very grateful if you could end our interview with some lines.
I think the analogy we were talking about, like Savitri is an ocean.
Yeah.
You had asked me whether I've entered the ocean. I also find it, that Savitri, even if you're not reading all of it, if you just enter into it, you are in the ocean. Whether you enter from here or enter from there.
Yes.
So that's why I have a particular passage which I have memorized. It's from the Adoration of the Divine Mother. And it is something which just takes me into her presence, Of course, apart from that, there is always the reading of Savitri. But so this is something which if you're asking me, I would recommend all sadhaks. In fact, I even do it to the sadhaks who come to the camp who are not very fluent in English. I say to them that it doesn't matter whether you understand or not. Choose one passage and with somebody's help, get it right, the way it has to be right. Maybe it's 10 lines. And you just keep reading those 10 lines.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the fact that you don't know English so much. That contact with Savitri will do everything else for you. So right in my childhood, again, had a background where I did read a lot of Hindu spiritual literature and scripture, so I had this habit of memorizing mantras. And before I recite this, I can just mention one thing to you, that when I read Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, there are so many times when what she's saying or Sri Aurobindo is saying, you find it in the Vedas directly. There is a Vedic invocation to Savitri, just 4 lines, and it says, Namas Savitre Jagateka Chakshushe Jagat Prasuti Sthitinasha Hetave Trayi Mayaya Trigunatma Dharine Virinchi Narayana Shankaratmane. So wonderfully put. I think this applies to Savitri and the power of Savitri. Namas Savitri is prostration to Savitri. Jagateka Chakshushe, the one all-seeing eye. Jagateka Chakshushe. Jagat Prasuti Sthitinasha Hetave. Prasuti is birth, Sthiti is the upholding, and Nasha is the destruction. The three godheads of the Hindu, triology. Sthiti Nasha Hetave. Trayi Mayaya Trigunatma Dharine. So it is that supreme consciousness or being who puts on the three Purushas as dons them as his clothes. So we are not talking about the nature. So that indwelling presence in us, the psychic being, in a sense has these three, mental, vital and physical being, because the psychic being is the indwelling divine. So that again is so beautifully described there. And of course finally it says Virinchi Narayana Shankaratma, that which is the Atman of the three great gods also. So Savitri in that sense is a living power. So when you actually are in touch with Savitri and you are reciting the mantras of Savitri, every time you do it, even if they are the same lines, there is always a new opening and there is always a step forward that you take. So anyway, I will recite these lines which I love so much. They are from the Adoration of the Divine Mother. A heart was felt in the spaces wide and bare, a burning love from wide spiritual founts annulled the sorrow of the ignorant depths. Suffering was lost in her immortal smile. A life from beyond grew conqueror here of death. To err no more was natural to mind. Wrong could not come where all was light and love. The formless and the formed were joined in her. Immensity was exceeded by a look. A face revealed the crowded infinite. Incarnating inexpressibly in her limbs, the boundless joy the blind world forces seek. Her body of beauty mooned the seas of bliss. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. Hers is the mystery the night conceals. The spirit's alchemist energy is hers. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. The luminous heart of the unknown is she, a power of silence in the depths of God. She is the force, the inevitable word, the magnet of our difficult ascent, the sun from which we kindle all our suns, the light that leans from the unrealized vase, the joy that beckons from the impossible, the might of all that never yet came down. All nature dumbly calls to her alone, to heal with her feet the aching throb of life, and break the seals on the dim soul of man, and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. All here shall be one day her sweetness's home. All contraries prepare her harmony. Towards her our knowledge climbs, our passion gropes. In her miraculous rapture we shall dwell. Her clasp shall turn to ecstasy our pain. Our self shall be one self with all through her. In her confirmed, because transformed in her, our life shall find in its fulfilled response, above the boundless hushed beatitudes, below the wonder of the embrace divine.